As you order. We should...
Oh yes, the time has come! The time of fate and curses!
We should...
Oh yes, the time has come! The time of fate and curses! Oh yes, the time has come! The time of fate and curses!
Enemy near. Masterpiece. Let us strike as one. We can do it! Let us not hesitate.
I am yours to command.
Oh yes, the time has come! The time of fate and curses!
You should have run! To you. We won't falter. Don't hold back! Aim carefully!
Will they ever learn?
Stay behind me! This will hurt. Attack!
Enough! The time for masks is over, duty. I remember your answer. The world remembers it too. Your answer, your heart, your essence. And now, cursed queen, I'm taking this part. Let us continue. I'm curious what you think of me, cursed queen. Do you see me as a villain or a simple joker? In truth, well, I'll never be able to conceive of the truth. Being an eldest means being one of the many strings that hold the world in place. Being an eldest means... Good.
Charge! longer. run.
A fine use of my talents.
Then a strike is won! Strike! I require healing. Do not falter!
Defeat. What a refreshing feeling. I don't remember sensing it for a dozen millennia. But what's next? How will you end this story? Listen, I know it would end. Elegant and refined. The hero defeats a deity in battle. Impressive, it grants the victor power and immortality. The hero enters the chambers of the deity to become his champion and herald, eternal, powerful, equally glorified both in the first world and in Valeria. Her kingdom healed from its wounds and flourished under the rule of the immortal champion. A beautiful ending, isn't it? And this legend is yours for the asking.
My spring, I beg you, do not listen. There is poison and evil triumph in his words. We may not be able to kill him, but surrendering now is the greatest mistake we could make. But even so, let wicked fate strike only me. Do you hear me, eldest? Take me, your favorite toy, and let the queen and her kingdom go in peace.
You are so beneficent, trespasser. I didn't expect to see you like this. I might even accept this sacrifice, but what do you say?
Agree to his offer. Now I regret that my heart can love again. The sound of these words wouldn't hurt so much if I'd remained cold.
What is that, trespasser? Don't you want the best for your chosen one? As for you, if she agrees to my offer, you may go wherever you wish. I'll not bother you again, if you're smart enough to stay out of my sight. And hers. Well, that is easy. I will return your kingdom to Galarian and strengthen its connection to the First World. In their homeland, the Fae can endlessly return to life. I will give to you the same gift. So long as you remain an enclave of the First World, death within its borders will never threaten you. As for the prize, I'm offering you the position of a servant. Believe it or not, I am lonely. Divine power and immortality are a heavy burden. To accept it means losing all your friends and companions, but you can find allies and reliable assistance. This is what I'm looking for. A herald and a general with whom I can share eternity, and together we'll play 1,000 wonderful pranks and spread our power across the First World and further, much further.
I can't let that happen, my spring. You, your subjects and companions, will be hostages in an eternal war with a deity. Let him take me instead, and allow you to live.
So be it. This performance has run its course. It would be unwise to continue. Besides, I have no love of dying and returning to life. My fellow eldest are very good at playing especially intricate pranks at that exact moment.
Farewell, my spring. Let us say goodbye quickly and end this painful moment. I cannot allow you to be harmed. That is why I must remain to the court of the Lantern King, a safeguard and hostage. I will try to ensure that the eldest's eyes never again stray to your lands. Remember the sad nymph, Nyrissa. Or forget, if you wish. There is but one thing I ask of you. Be happy.
You were cursed by my will. By my will, you are now freed from the curse. May the shackles be broken, fetters be loosened. What's been stolen will be returned. What's been divided will be made whole again. I say farewell, and release your kingdom to the material plane. Go, be glad of your ordinary mortal life. Forget the gods of the first world. Now they no longer concern you.
Now that the eldest and other spiteful beings wouldn't be bothering us, the Queen returned to her subjects and celebrated the victory and the end of the kingdom's miseries with great fanfare. Everything gradually returned to normal, including our exciting lives. Not always peaceful, but also not troubled by invasions from another world. And little by little, our heroes and the common folk began to forget the sorrows of the past. Sometimes, on clear spring nights, the Queen saw dreams. In them, the nymph Nyrissa, pale and exhausted, walked through endless mist as she helplessly searched for salvation. The kingdom built by our heroine became an example for all its neighbors. What else would you expect? The stolen lands became the only place where the citizens sincerely toast the health of their ruler. The citizens lived trouble-free, and taxes made it to the treasury without losses. A powerful army guards the peace. Exploration of magic is on par. The temples are flooded with their congregations. And, most importantly, our cultural contributions are at least the equal of Absalom. Just half a year after the war with the First World, Galt moved its troops to the southern border of the kingdom. Their attack was rebuffed. The enemy state's infantry retreated when the army's wizards brought down rains of fire and magical arrows on the heads of the flabbergasted enemy soldiers. Since then, Galt hasn't risked crossing any borders again, fearing cruel retaliation for further insolence. The Queen's subjects praise her generosity, while citizens of neighboring lands groan from crippling taxes. Citizens of the stolen lands have it pretty good. Truth be told, the treasury isn't always capable of paying the royal bills, and the throne room's adornments are clearly decaying, but sometimes you have to buy the people's love, literally. Who'd have thought that some tiny barony founded in the stolen lands by an adventurer would become a real kingdom, playing a prominent part in world politics? Of course, not everyone likes the proactive stance of this young, bold state, but the fact of the matter is, they can't afford to ignore the Queen and her diplomats. The Queen became a true patron of fine crafts. Over time, the castle treasury filled with wonderful gifts from the best masters in the area. Armor, weapons, even magical artifacts, and the collection is still growing. No kingdom can function without its nobility, and the kingdom in the Stolen Lands is no exception. Landowners, ready to share the burden of ruling alongside the queen, grew to be more and more influential over time. And the more pompous the court balls and receptions held by dukes and baronets became, the more eventful were the lives of the schemers and freeloaders who always lived within the shadows of the powerful. The feud between Brevois North and South, which had been smoldering for ages, finally sparked the fires of civil war. Our troops lent aid to the forces of House Sertova, suffering terrible losses as they took the brunt of the damage from the Sword Lord's forces. The rebellion was soon crushed, and Jumondi Eldori was beheaded in Restov's central square. And for a long time, any hope of an independent Rostland died with her. Chandra Merve became an ambassador at our court once more. The arrogant old lady misses no chance to remind us that House Sertova considers us nothing more than vassals. The Tiger Lords never fully recovered from the damage Armont did to the tribe. Lacking a strong leader and torn by infighting, the barbarians sank into a short but fierce internal war. Their lands were quickly appropriated by neighboring tribes, and the Tiger Lords were scattered across Numeria and the River Kingdoms. Little more than pitiful remnants of a once great tribe. Pitax almost returned to its former state, a joyful city filled with beers of dubious quality and deals of questionable legality. The old trade houses lost the crown, but they retrieved the property Iravetti had taken from them. Soon, Pitax became almost like a second capital in the kingdom, a thriving city through which rivers of money from across the region ran. Unfortunately, we get much less of this money than we would like. Governor Liachenza turned out to be helpless against widespread embezzlement. Maestro Bellavera gave the Academy of the Arts a second wind. Throwing out mediocre students and sycophants, she gathered within its walls talented visionaries, rebels, and freethinkers, those whose gifts felt cramped within the walls of more respectable institutions. She managed to do what Iravetti never could, namely, make the Academy truly famous, albeit scandalously so. So, what if instead of odes to the Queen, the Academy releases sneering pamphlets and revolutionary leaflets? It only helps her reputation as a true patron of the arts. Trolls and kobolds, two of the most savage native peoples living in the Gnarl Marches, were completely exterminated in the region. The forest paths became much safer, and the peasants' cattle have stopped going missing. Bartholomew Delgado still serves the Queen loyally. From time to time, he orders peculiar mechanisms and substances from all corners of the world. After receiving them, he spends a few days bragging about some great discovery he's about to make, then ends up gloomy for a few months. Then he receives another package, and the process repeats itself. At night, chilling screams are often heard from his laboratory. After enduring so many storms and troubles, Varnhold eventually turned into a real city. Daring settlers decided to conquer the vast, wild expanses of Dunsword, and despite all odds, they succeeded. The modest colony that almost vanished at the hands of an ancient lich turned everything around to become a thriving city with lively river trading. Magar Varn didn't stay at the court for long. Having saved some seed money, he left service and organized a new Varnling host together with his general. And this new party of mercenaries has already helped our kingdom more than a few times. After the kobolds and mites disappeared, the empty caves beneath the old sycamore quickly became home to all kinds of disgusting critters. Giant centipedes being the most innocent and pleasant of them. Attempts have been made to clear out the caves, but it never takes long for something to take up residence again. In the end, the decision was made to block the entrances and burn the giant tree down, destroying the roots that held up the ceiling of the caves. Oleg's trading post continues to thrive, attracting even more travelers. Much to its owner's displeasure, a small town is springing up around it. Despite Oleg's grumbling, he and his wife are well regarded by everyone, and Svetlana was even elected town chief. Making sure her sister was safe, the former bandit Kressel traveled south. Her trail went cold somewhere in Absalom's docks. They say she changed her name again and now serves on a trade ship, hiding from old acquaintances. Jod and Keston, after surviving the Bloom, remained loyal to the Queen they followed through thick and thin, and they continue to serve as court advisors to this day. The austere priest and the gloomy warrior regularly argue over the proper way to govern the state, as well as which of the two rulers should hear out first. Some things never change. Keston Garest took a post as chief of the kingdom's guard. The former heir to a noble family never returned to Brevoy, severing all ties to his kin. However, a few years after the victory over the First World, a girl arrived from Brevoy and soon married Keston. They say Keston started smiling a lot more after that. Jod remained loyal to the Queen to the end of his days, healing the sick and generously sharing his austere wisdom with anyone who wished to hear it, and some who didn't. Having fulfilled his duty to the ruler, Erastil's priest peacefully departed this world, surrounded by friends and disciples. Tasana, Lamashtu's priestess, didn't remain in the Queen's service for long. One night, she just disappeared from the castle and set off for the kingdom's borders, preaching to anyone who would listen and granting the needy the blessing of the Mother of Monsters. Having participated in Lamashtu's ritual, Olika gave birth to a strong and healthy baby. Sadly, the child grew into an unruly and violent adolescent. Having named Apir at just 10 years of age, the boy escaped to the Gnarl Marches, fleeing the rage of a mob that tore his mother to pieces instead. No one knows what happened to the lad, but legends of Lamashtu's child, who sometimes kills lost travelers and sometimes leads them to safety, are passed on by word of mouth throughout the area. Breinhart became a loyal ally and trade partner of the kingdom, and Darvin himself had been seen as a frequent guest in the capital. The elegant monarch of the neighboring kingdom has broken many hearts at court. After his visits, many young guards and servants have been seen staring through windows, sighing wistfully about something. The Fae took a fancy to the kingdom, feeling totally at home here. They often play various pranks, but they never do any serious harm. Falcos and Teresia managed to restore the magic forest. Once freed of the anger of the Scythe Tree, people returned to the abandoned village, and it became a haven of friendship between the Fae and ordinary people, just like old times. The lizard folk of the Longtail tribe returned to live on the shores of Candlemere, but they couldn't return to their ancient way of life. Living alongside people, the lizard folk adopted their behaviors, habits, and even religion. More and more of the Longtail tribe pray not to the spirits of their ancestors, but to Erastil or Gorum. They even began to forget their original language. I hope someone writes down their songs and legends before they all sink into oblivion. The goblins who put so much effort into preserving the Queen's lands obviously felt that gave them the right to do whatever they wanted in the kingdom. Travelers are careful to move in groups when they can, and any peasants who spot at least one particularly toothy stranger immediately raise the alarm. For if you see one goblin, there is likely a whole gang. A delegation of wizards from Absalom and other areas appeared in the kingdom one day, asking for permission to examine the lair of the Lich Farniras the Thoughtful. After completing their research, the wizards spent a long time thanking the Queen for freeing the world of that monster. In their opinion, he'd been capable of causing the end of the world, maybe even 2 worlds. The Sweet Teeth departed on a journey, hoping to see as many wonders as possible of this world and others. They keep sending us news from every corner of the map. Their bright painted wagon, drawn by a bull mastodon, crisscrosses Golarion, somehow appearing in the center of one incredible story after another. Evindra was glad to see the Lantern King's plans turn to dust. She spent some time helping restore the kingdom after the calamity, then returned home to the First World. They say the rebellious spirit of her cousin Nyrissa awoke within her as well. Evindra is said to recount our story to the Fae, encouraging them to question the power and might of the eldest. After the victory, the storyteller abandoned his affairs and began spending a lot of time alone in contemplation. He eventually bid farewell to the queen and left her lands. But I suspect the inhabitants of Golarion haven't heard the last of this mysterious traveler, for his own story is hardly finished. Amiri remained a pariah to her native tribe, but she stayed close friends with Nylak, who ruled the Six Bears wisely and taught them to survive in the unfamiliar plains and cities. The restless barbarian would often travel for long stretches of time, but sooner or later she would always return to her old friends, bragging about new scars and recounting new feats, many of which Nylak immortalized in song. Valerie stayed to serve the queen, and to this day she continues to be a muse to many people, not just bards and admirers, but to warriors as well. Honest and resilient, Valerie is not just famous for her feats in battle, but also for her patience and kindness, which she says the queen helped her discover within herself. Harrim became famous, respected by dwarves throughout our kingdom as well as our neighbors, even as far as the Five Kings Mountains. He's often been asked to help out or teach others, and he's never denied anyone, despite his grumbling. Some people even listen to his preaching. Lucky for us, there's a lot less howling about the end of the world now, and more wise words of moderation and humility. Not all of his disciples turned to Grotus, but everyone took away something useful from his teachings. Octavia didn't stay still for very long. Soon, she and Reg went to Numeria and started a huge slave rebellion there. They didn't manage to destroy the Technic League, but to this day, slaves speak their names with admiration, and slavers with terror. Over the course of their journey, the two grew as close as ever, leaving their quarrels and resentments behind. After returning from Numeria, Octavia settled in her mother's house and became the queen's advisor and loyal companion. Rigangar left for Numeria with Octavia to start a slave rebellion. Over the journey, he really matured and learned to understand others, as well as how to control his anger. After he returned, he took a position in the Queen's court. Being both formidable and charming, he inspired fear in the hearts of some and lust in others. There are even some rumors that he almost talked Octavia into marrying him, and possibly even continuing the Della Fiorni line. Tristan stayed in the Stolen Lands. Endowed with a special blessing of Sarenrae, the priest became known as a great healer and went on to perform many more miracles. I'd say the Movonic Diva deserves the right to rejoin Sarenrae's divine army. I hope the goddess will think the same when Tristan's hour comes and his soul is up for a new judgment. Ekin spent a few years in the Stolen Lands, and in that time won glory as the most rugged monster hunter in all the River Kingdoms. The ranger exterminated even the most harmless of the monsters around the capital, then moved on to other lands and new victories. They say the ruthless avenger and slayer of wild monsters made it as far as Katapesh. That's where his trail went cold. I'm afraid Ekin may have become the prey of one of his targets. Jubilost returned to the life of a traveling explorer, frequently visiting his favorite kingdom. He said so himself. His famous work studying the First World all opened with a dedication to his longtime companion, the Queen. Sometimes, during Jubilost's performances, all kinds of chaos would break loose. Viewers turned into unicorns, or would be teleported to the top of a cliff. Later, Jubilost would be seen arguing fiercely with a pretty gnome named Nerd. The arguments looked very sweet and intimate. As for Knock Knock, Jester Knock Knock, he continued to be a great source of entertainment for the kingdom, both in and out of the throne room, sometimes even on purpose. His antics in the kingdom had an additional effect. Aside from bringing joy and amusement to the citizens, it also softened the common view of goblins. They even became welcome in the streets of the city, for a time. While he may not have become the hero he envisioned, Knock Knock did find himself and his inner strength thanks to the Queen. If you should ever find yourself in the kingdom, be sure to seek him out. He'll gladly regale you with some new tale of adventure, one that will surely make you smile, whether our foolhardy, clumsy, well-intentioned goblin means to or not. Kalika did not remain in our lands for long. She never lost hope of discovering some news of her sister's fate, and the sorrow in her heart drove her to restless journey. One day she left without saying goodbye. No one knows where, taking only the simple things she fled with from Kadira. Kanera celebrated the victory along with everyone else, but was soon consumed by black thoughts about her missing sister. One day we discovered her house empty, her things sold, and Kanera herself gone. All that remained was a short goodbye note. Despite all the woes that befell the country, our queen remains a strong leader. Many noble houses from neighboring lands wouldn't hesitate to be related to her, and they regularly send a variety of marriage proposals. As for myself, the author of this book, Linzi, who never chose a pretty nickname, I'm still here, inside my creation within the Capitol Library. I live just like I always dreamed, surrounded by people and books, and not a day goes by without someone turning my pages. My story inspired many others to take up the quill. My readers have written many fierce books, articles, and pamphlets, flinging truth in the faces of tyrants. What more could I dream of? I hope, oh honored reader, that this story offered you some daring ideas, or at least some entertainment. In any case, it's time to set the final period.